The aim of this presentation is to familiarize you with more specialized and detailed terms such as metadata and their importance in the modern digital world. The objective of this presentation are to define metadata, their use, extraction, and importance in data streaming. Inform participants about more complex and sophisticated terminology regarding data and their various types. This presentation is about how metadata affect data and all procedures related to information technology. In this presentation, we shall introduce you the terms of metadata. The topic of this presentation is definition of metadata regarding the museum sector with examples. At the end of this presentation, you will be able to define data, information, digital content, and metadata, examine the added value of software regarding data, information, and digital content management, define the web threats and the necessity to face them, apply effective management of data, information, and digital content of museum sector. The terms and keywords you are going to be familiar to in this presentation is metadata. They can be defined as structured data about data. As we already explained, metadata can be defined as structured data about data. For example, the museum's catalog record. It is structured data about an object in the museum's collection. Museums use metadata extensively so as to manage and document their collections and to share information about their collections. Museums use metadata for activities such as documenting collections, data about the object's materials, dates, creator, etc. Managing collections, information about rights, access, use, location control, etc. Resource discovery, information used to find and identify digital or physical resources. Establishing structure within or among resources for viewing and using the metadata. Preservation, data about condition of objects or preservation of digital resources, etc. There are various levels of granularity of metadata. For example, there can be interrelated metadata about individual objects, physical or digital objects in a museum's collection, artists, geographical location, and other information that is linked with objects in the museum's collection. Subsets of the museum's collection. The museum collection as a whole, collection level description. An exhibit, physical or virtual. Metadata can be stored separately from the information object or can be embedded within the information object. For example, in the case of physical museum objects, the metadata will be stored separately in a database. For digital images and other multimedia files, some metadata may be stored in a database, while other metadata may be stored as part of the multimedia file during the digitization process. For websites, metadata is often embedded in the HTML header at the top of the web page. Search engines sometimes use this embedded metadata to index the site. If we try to categorize the types of metadata, then we come up with the following. Descriptive metadata. They describe a resource for purposes such as discovery and identification. They can include elements such as title, abstract, author, and keywords. Structural metadata. Containers of data. They indicate how compound objects are put together, for example, how pages are ordered to form chapters. They describe the types, versions, relationship, and other characteristics of digital materials. Administrative metadata. They provide information to help manage a resource, such as when and how it was created, file type and other technical information, and who can access it. Reference metadata. They describe the contents and quality of statistical data. And finally, statistical metadata. They describe processes that collect, process, or produce statistical data. They are called process data. The museums want to exchange information, so they use metadata standards to assist them with collection documentation, management, and resource discovery. Metadata standards usually define a limited number of elements used to describe a resource, the name and meaning of each element, rules for the use of each element, for example, whether a controlled vocabulary is used with the element. Metadata standards generally have the following objective: enhancing information retrieval, particularly automated retrieval, promoting consistency within and between databases, ensuring that important information is recorded, improving the security of collections, accounting for museum collections, enabling the collection and knowledge about the collection to be shared and used, facilitating exchange of information between databases, facilitating the migration of data to new systems. There are many metadata standards. Important metadata standards for use in a museum context include Spectrum, the UK and international standard for collection management, CIDOC, CRM, the CIDOC conceptual reference model, and important metadata standards for use in a digital context are Dublin Core, defines 15 metadata elements for simple resource discovery. Qualifiers for some of these elements enable more detail to be recorded. Further elements have now been defined to use in specific fields. And DC application profiles, DC elements defined for use in specific communities of practice, for example, education, libraries, collection, and scholarly works. Here you can see a table with an example of metadata, pre-submitted project level metadata from the London Museum. The information that is recorded here is project identifier, organization, project name, type of project, site location, borrow, project start date, project end date, NGR. Here you can see a second example of metadata, optional project level metadata, again from the London Museum. The information that is recorded here is contributor moral rights, contributor name, contributor role, contributor, affiliation, related project, asset statements. This presentation was about how metadata affect data and all procedures related to information technology. Now that you've finished watching it, you should be able to define data, information, digital content, metadata. Examine the added value of software regarding data, information, and digital content management. Define the web threats and the necessity to face them. Apply effective management of data, information, and digital content of museum sector.